Hello, my dear friends, and welcome to Led to Gold, the podcast devoted to discussing all things growth and wellness. And it is our second to last episode of season 1, which is insane. But if you have been a long time / over year-long listener, I just want to say thank you so much for your continued support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for rating whatever you have done to support the show. It truly means the world, and I'm really excited to kind of wrap up this season with you all. I'm excited to see what's next. I want to reiterate that this is not a full-on goodbye. I will still be most likely active on Instagram. I'll still be blogging when it calls to me. But for now, the podcast is going to take a little hiatus. So all that being said, there are still other ways to support Led to Gold, to reach out, to stay up to date. And if you choose to do so, all the links for all the things are in the show notes. I have my Instagram, like I mentioned, and I also run a blog, like I mentioned. It'll be a little bit quieter in the coming days and months, but that's okay. That's okay. We're still doing stuff. And finally, I'll just mention that if you really do want to stay up to date, the one thing I will be just as consistent with that I have been doing since all of this kicked up is my monthly newsletters. So if you want to kind of just see what's going on, that would be the best way to do it. And you can subscribe through my website, Led to Gold. So that'll be a monthly thing. There's always a nice, lovely, cutesy, fun, exclusive Spotify playlist for the Zodiac season, whatever it is. So if you get on this in the next couple days, if you're listening to this episode right when it comes out, you will be just in time for the Scorpio season playlist. Yay! So that's all that. Thank you so much just for being here. And let's get into today's conversation, which is going to be a little bit of a catch-all. I'm excited. I've never done anything like this on the show before, but I wanted to try it. I wanted to see how this might turn out. And I've been very inspired by some fun and brainless little YouTube videos that I tend to binge when I'm low on steam. And that's what I am right now. I'm going to be so honest. So we're going to scour the internet for some wellness advice. That is what we're going to do. That is it. So what I thought I would do is go through a very, very, very long, very extensive Reddit thread with over 30,000 posts, with over 30,000 conversations, whatever you want to call them. I don't know what to call them, that talk about what has improved people's quality of life, so much so that they wish they had done it sooner. And of course, it's Reddit. Not all of them are the most helpful, but there's definitely a few gems in here that I thought we could talk about, discuss in a little bit more depth, and just parse out a few things that we all might be able to do, or at least consider, that would improve our quality of life. And I really like this post too. I like the questioning here because it's not just about health. It's not just about one specific facet of wellness. It's really a ton of things all kind of lumped into the general sense of your well-being, which is, in my definition, what true wellness is. It is not supposed to be something prescribed to you. It's not supposed to be something that you can just buy with a product, or, you know how the internet likes to take things that are intentionally for good into an industry, which we have had an entire conversation on the wellness industry. So I won't get into that today. But yeah, let's see what some internet strangers have to say about wellness, shall we? The first one, and I love the first one that we're picking up on here because it is so relevant to so much of what I discuss here on this podcast. And this person just puts, plain and simply, I stopped watching the news. life is way better without it. Some of the people that responded to this one have said so many really amazing and really thought-provoking additions to this sentiment. For example, the news industry has been shipping fear propaganda, unreflected and unchallenged views for decades. So in essence, that is so completely true. And for people still needing a connection to current events, a suggestion would be to follow sources that are either local, positive, detailed, aggregate, or conversational. These are all factors that make the news more valuable than just some random tweet by some random billionaire or some random newscaster, And that's what most news is these days. I think one thing we don't realize is that we get a lot of our news from non-news sources. And to counter that even, the quote-unquote news sources are so heavily biased and have such obvious political agendas to somebody like me who really actually studies media literacy, but their audiences don't, and their audiences, no offense to their audiences, are not media literate. So they're not going to necessarily see the obviousness of this station's agenda. But you know who I'm talking about. There's the most popular quote-unquote news channels. That's how they operate. On a similar note, somebody else had commented on this one saying that they compromised because they were a person who wanted to stay up to date and stay informed. They compromised by only checking the news once a week or maybe even once a day rather than constantly. So if you're the kind of person who is used to the genuine 24-hour news cycle, maybe that goes on in your parents' home, or maybe that even goes on in your home. Maybe you have a news app that's constantly giving you notifications. Taking those away and just giving yourself a time to check once a day could be a huge, huge difference maker. The last comment here that I really think is potent that I wanted to highlight is where someone said that there is a ton of wisdom in realizing that you can't control what happens externally, but you can eventually get power over your own mind and emotions. So, of course, while I've talked about this too, I do think it is important as humans to care about the larger world issues that are going on and the horrible shit that we are constantly exposed to. It's important to care. It's important to want to do something to combat that, to make these people's lives better, to help where we can. But I do think there's also something to be said for, again, and honestly, I might even link my most recent episode to this because it's very relevant. We are not accustomed to seeing all of the media that we are constantly seeing. So it's important to remember that that is not normal. The 24-hour news cycle is not good for us. It's not good for our mental capacities. So avoiding the news, or at least highly minimizing how much of it you consume, is very helpful. So that was our first example of something that improved quality of life. The next one says, setting my own boundaries after realizing that when I didn't, people set them for me. Yet another entire Led to Gold episode dedicated to boundary setting and the nuances in setting boundaries. There has been so much discourse around this as something that we can do for ourselves, but also something that kind of floats in along with therapy speak. It's a very hot topic in the wellness world, and it has been for several years now. There's a lot to say about it. It can be a whole conversation in and of itself, but I do think the essence here is being more assertive, and honestly, this is a lesson that I'm learning in my life currently, is valuing your time to the point where you're not going to let it be compromised by things that are not a top priority in your life. And yeah, I'm there right now. It's been pretty hard, but it's also been pretty cool to see this, I would consider, new side of myself where I'm able to stand up for myself more than I ever have and really own the fact that these are my expectations and this is how I honestly demand to be treated. It's such a weird dichotomy. I'm going on a tangent here now, but I was talking to a friend the other day about how I was liking this new side of myself, but I also was like, I really, really don't want to sound like a Karen. I don't want to be proud of the fact that I'm being a Karen, that I'm demanding that I get my needs met. There's been a lot of stuff at work that I won't get into that is honestly calling for me to be a little bit more aggressive with getting some needs met. And I just kept coming back to that sentiment of like, oh, but I don't want to sound like a Karen. I don't want to be a bitch, da 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 da. And my friend, such a good therapy friend moment, but she stopped me and she was just like, it really sucks that a woman needing to be heard immediately feels like a Karen. It really sucks that just needing your needs met, or trying to get your needs met at the very least, immediately feels like you're being the worst kind of woman. And I was like, oh, damn. You right? You are so right. So it's really interesting, right? Because we want to set boundaries. That in our culture, in our wellness conversations, is immediately a good thing to do. But in practice, and this is why boundaries are kind of tricky for a lot of people, is that can feel mean. It can feel bitchy. It can feel like you're being a Karen. But remember what my friend said. It's really unfortunate that asking for your needs to be met means, or at least in our society, it means that you are the worst kind of person. And I am here to remind you, even though I needed this reminder, you are not. You should be treated the way that you want to be treated. Golden rule vibes. You should get the compensation that you deserve. And you should ask for the things that will make your life easier. If other people can help you out with that, so be it. Like, ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. It really doesn't. And you're not being a bitch. Okay, that's my little tangent on boundaries for today. Let's do another one. And we haven't talked about this on the podcast before, but I think it could certainly be a conversation all on its own. Learning to get over myself. Nobody cares what I do. Nobody is looking at me. And why should I care if they are? Nobody outside my circle has enough context to make accurate judgments about how I live, so why am I trying so hard to justify my decisions? As soon as I adopted that mindset, being alive got significantly less shitty. I do my best to be a decent person and to take care of myself, and the only opinions I care about are my own, my partner's, and my therapist's. And I'm like, yes to this one. That is so good. So true. And also so hard to practice sometimes because we are self-conscious little humans. We do care about what others think of us. It's kind of within our genetic code, if you will. It's natural, but at the same time, it is a really, really nice reminder to think about how often you yourself think about the way somebody else's hair looks, or if they stink, or I'm thinking of like physical appearance things, but if they talk too loud, it's like we don't really give this a whole lot of thought in other people, but we very much get self-critical about these things. So it is a good reminder to just be like, I don't think about that with other people. So I don't think I would really care if others had even just the passing thought of me. And I don't know, my nipples are showing through my shirt. That's one thing that I just get super self-conscious about. I'm like, are my nipples showing? And yeah, even if they were, I really don't think anybody cares. Because if I ever pass somebody and their nipples are showing, I don't give a second thought about it. Right? Love this one. Okay. I permanently placed my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I allow calls only from contacts. This one change saved me from constant disruptive unwanted calls. Other people are saying below this that they turned off all of their non-necessary apps. And by non-necessary, I mean things like social media, maybe even email if it's not something that you need to be checking all day. For me personally, since I work at a school, when I am at school, I always just have my email up on my computer anyway, and I kind of look at it throughout the day just to make sure I'm not missing anything super important. But I have never had my work email on my phone ever, because when I leave school, I'm not answering parent or student emails. I'm just not. I'm off the clock, right? So it's important for me, and I learned this the hard way in college when I was so addicted to checking my phone and checking my apps. And the reason for that was because I had not only notifications on, but I had a Samsung phone that had a light on it that you could change the color of the light to show different notifications for apps. So even when my phone screen was off, I could still look over at my phone and see, oh, is the yellow light blinking? That means I got a text. Oh, is a pink light blinking? That means somebody liked my Instagram photo. Like, oh my God. I think back on this and I'm like, this is horrible. Like, it's no wonder we have such an addiction to notifications and just to our devices in general, but we are so conditioned to be compulsively checking this thing. So it really, really does make a big difference when you just turn those off, because then the light doesn't blink. Or you have to actually open the app when you have some time to then go through the notifications that show up when you open the app, but you're not going to know about it. So it takes a little getting used to, but this is a great one. I absolutely love this one. I'll also just highlight the last funny little comment underneath this one where somebody said, I didn't even realize that that was an option. Well, dear friend, I hope that you do now, and I hope that you use it. Here's a physical health one for us. Yoga. I'm an old guy, and I discovered it at age 56 in 2005. By now, I'm still not terribly proficient, but yoga has kept me limber. More importantly, it has been amazing for improving my peace of mind. And whenever somebody asks why I practice yoga, I reply, for peace of mind. Some comments below this that I really like are that one person said, an Indian friend of mine runs a restaurant, an incredibly stressful job. It was eating him alive until he started doing yoga. Thinking he had gotten some yoga master from back home to teach him, I asked him how he learned. He said, YouTube. It's great. You can find everything on there. And he's like a different guy now. Some other people also kind of on that YouTube track are saying that, you know, it's not that hard. There's so many free resources out there. And if you, fellow wellness girly, are listening to this, you're probably well endowed with YouTube. You probably know that there's a lot out there, and doesn't hurt to go check sometimes. I honestly have been starting to use YouTube for breath work, and I love it. That's one last little comment that I'll bring up from this section. Yoga, meditation, any controlled breathing. This person is a huge advocate as this changed their life in a major way. There's a video out there, I can't find it anymore, explaining your parasympathetic versus the sympathetic nervous systems and how you can turn these on and off by using only your breathing, which is really freaking cool. And it's like, in one way, I kind of knew that, but hearing it just simply stated like that kind of blows my mind. It's wild. I love the breath. It really is so true, I think, what a lot of yogis and meditation experts say about it, where it's like that really is, I mean, that is our life force, is our breath. So coming back to it and focusing, or at least trying to focus only on that, is such a profound wellness practice. It really is like the definition of being present in your body, which I really think is something I would love to practice even more than I already do. Here's one that involves a little bit of financial wealth, but nonetheless, I thought it might be worth sharing. Buying a wardrobe of good quality, properly fitting clothing that I actually like. Agonizing over what to wear every morning because this doesn't fit properly or this one has a stain. I just wore that yesterday. Like all of this, I don't like how this sits on my body. It would start my day off really badly. But I relate to this person, and while I'm still kind of in the midst of that journey, I'll add on the one thing that really, really helps is, even if you're somebody who's like never used this app before, and again, I'm coming back to the app thing, but this is a nice app because it doesn't barge into your day with a bunch of notifications. Pinterest. Pinterest really helped me find my style. I was able to kind of look through them and realize the clothing that I had in my actual closet didn't really match up that well with what I was saving as style inspiration. And I thought that that was a really interesting thing because in one way it almost feels, or at least for me, it feels a little bit vain to care so much. I didn't want to be that person that was like completely revamping my wardrobe just because I don't like the clothes that I have. Like there's something in the not so financially stable young girl in me that feels very icky about that. But I fully agree with this person in the fact that when you don't like what clothing you have in front of you, and when you feel like you're wearing the same thing every day, when you feel like it's boring, when you feel like things don't fit right and it's just old and it makes you feel that way. I'm a firm believer. I think both things can be true at once, even though I don't want to feel vain about my clothing choices. I am a firm believer that your clothing very much reflects how you feel about yourself. And I want to be a teacher foremost because that's my job. That's what I dress for day in and day out. I want to be a teacher that looks like I give a shit about teaching, but also I want to look casual. I want to look fun. I want to be comfortable. So a lot of the style that I picked up on Pinterest and started putting together reflects that. And it's still cute. You know, I don't want to be a frumpy teacher. So anyway, all of that to say, it was honestly really expansive for me to take some of this into consideration in my own life, get rid of the clothing that doesn't really actually match my style at all, get rid of the things that I've completely worn out to the point that they had holes in them, but I just didn't want to get rid of them because, again, there's the financially unstable version of me who feels really wrong about that. And it's been a game changer. It really has. I've felt a lot better about my image, especially at work. Okay, I absolutely love this one, and it's very unexpected. Just not something that I would think about in a thread on improving your quality of life at all. But here it is. Letting my pride and ego take some hits. I used to be such a me person in my early life, and when I allowed myself to be taken down a peg or two, I started having new perspectives on life and the people around me. Someone below this says, it's a great lesson for young people. If you're wrong about something, don't double down on it. Just admit fault, learn, and keep it moving. We all make mistakes. Let's quit pretending we're somehow better than everybody else. Another person says, best workplace advice I ever got, and I would argue personally that this is just a good rule of thumb anywhere, is that people who really know what they're doing know when to say, I don't know. Seriously life-changing. I'll just add in a little personal note here. This is like one of my favorite things to do as a teacher because I think it's really important for young people, children, to see, especially their teachers, as someone who can admit fault, somebody who does not know everything, and somebody who's kind of just like doing their best, as most of us are. It has been a really, really big game changer in terms of my student relationships when I can be the one that's like, you know what? They'll look up a word or they'll ask me what something means, and I'll be like, I actually have no idea. Let me look that up for you. And then it kind of just establishes a little bit more trust and a little bit more relatability in a funny way. And it's not like I'm doing it on purpose, but I'm just like, I would rather find out the correct thing for you than tell you something incorrect. I don't want to be wrong. So let's admit fault together and look at this together, because I also have no idea what the fuck that word means, you know? Somebody else, I'll say below this comment, mentioned that striking a balance between being humble and being walked on is a really tough skill to learn. Going into their teenage years, they were extremely nice to everyone. They let bullies and manipulators walk all over them for a good couple years. Their breaking point was starting high school when a couple of older kids tried to trash can them. This dumbass leader of the group was a skinny douche, not any bigger than them, and snapped and smacked the shit out of him as he was trying to throw me into the can. Since then, it's been a balance of being polite, not letting ego take over, but also recognizing when you're being taken advantage of. Very important. This one is so funny to me, but drinking more water, which I know we all know. And yet we probably all need to drink more water. I just wanted to highlight this one because a comment below it says, When I got my first real job, I still had no money. The options for something to drink at work were either paying for a soda or water, which was free. One day of drinking water all day, no coffee, no soda, just water. And I had this moment of, holy shit, I've just been thirsty for the past 25 years. And I never looked back. I just had to say that. I just had to put that one out there because I feel like that's probably a lot more of a universal experience than we might realize that it is. And I love that. Drink more water. Here's one that gets the wellness industry people in a tizzy, but it's one that I will personally advocate for any day, any moment, ever. Starting antidepressants. I literally am a different person than I used to be, in a good way. I feel more confident in myself, more caring about other people, and while still having very defined boundaries. Absolutely life-changing. Someone below that said, I used to be scared that they were going to turn me into a different person in a bad way, but that I would lose all the parts of me that were empathetic and emotional. It's true, I do feel emotions a little less deeply, but it used to be debilitating. Honestly, it's such a welcome change from the person that used to be stuck replaying negative feelings over and over. Obviously, drugs don't solve everything, but at least it gets me out of bed in the morning so I can actually try to make progress and say no to people. I'm glad to see someone else took the dive and is doing well. Another person said, been on antidepressants for 4 months now, and it really is a lifesaver. Not only do I sleep properly, but I also manage to do things without feeling exhausted after 2 seconds. It sure is nice to not be suicidal 24/7. I just got to say this, again, from the personal standpoint, and I will back this any day. This is the kind of, I know it's anecdotal evidence, but this is the kind of thing that when I see people talk about the absolutely profound, amazing, beneficial changes that they've noticed from starting an antidepressant or an SSRI or an antipsychotic, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I don't understand how so many quote unquote health gurus have been able to demonize this and say that it's a bad thing and that, oh, these people just aren't eating right or there's something off balance or it's a hormonal thing. Yeah, no shit, it's a hormonal thing. That's what we have medical science for. I know I've complained about the medical system many a time, but there are some really, really great strides that we have made, and this is one of them. So I won't go any further than that, but I would just like to point out that antidepressants, SSRIs, antipsychotics, whatever behavior medication, they work for people. And it is not on you, as if you are somebody who doesn't experience this, it is not on you to make a decision for someone else or to make them feel bad for the decision they've made. Okay, off my soapbox for that one. This one I find really interesting, and in a way I can't relate. You'll see what I mean though. Testosterone therapy. There you go. I was in my late 30s and fucking miserable, drinking too much, bad depression, lethargy, no sex drive, the works. I Googled my symptoms and everything was pointing to low T, but my doctor refused to put me on it, saying my numbers were within the acceptable range. The acceptable range is 200 to 800 for all men 18 to 80. I was at 200. I went to a pay-to-play clinic and they put me on T that same day. A few months later, it started working and everything in my life got better. Sitting here 6 to 7 years later, I get a weekly injection and I'm about as happy as I can be. I tell everyone I know that if nothing else, get your numbers checked so that you know where you are if you're feeling off. And these days, more and more places are offering female sex hormone therapy that has the same effect as T does on men. So that's where I say initially this one doesn't relate to me, but this isn't all about me. Sounds like this is something that potentially could be looked into if you are in the same boat, chronically exhausted, burnt out, low sex drive. Maybe it's worth getting your numbers checked. These two, funny enough, are right next to each other and they go together really well, so let's explore both. Coming out of the closet as a lesbian. I had 2 failed marriages to men before I figured it out at 31. In the last 12 years, my life has improved exponentially. I got my degree, and I had been a stay-at-home mom since I was 20, built my career, fell in love, and am engaged to be married to the most incredible woman in the world. And right next to this one is transitioning. I can't believe how much better and more vibrant my life is 5 years after starting. I'd never even imagined I could feel so comfortable in my own skin. I wish somebody had just told me it was an option, that there were words for the feelings I had and that I could actually do something about them instead of just silently waiting for life to go by. Someone said below this, I have absolutely loved watching my cousin go through this. He is just so much more of a happier person and obviously so much more comfortable in his own skin. I wish more people would understand this. Another person says, I'm so happy to see so many people talk about transitioning and their coming out experiences. Hopefully every day, one more trans person feels comfortable and safe enough to discuss transitioning or not transitioning and the experiences that they encounter. This one's long, but I really like it, so we're going to talk about it. This is a change I made only a few months ago, but it has been major. I struggle with clinical depression. Okay, here we are. And extreme executive dysfunction, two conditions that exacerbate each other and have taken a lot of time out of my life the past 20 years. I've been doing better, but I still experience long periods of time when I'm barely functioning, and it's a miracle if I can even make it out of the house, let alone do anything productive. My therapist is a big advocate of being kind to oneself, and in theory, that's the mentality we should all have. There's no reason to punish ourselves when we're already struggling. But for me, the idea that I should, quote unquote, be kind to myself is far too easy to corrupt. As in, I'm not going to clean my kitchen because I'm tired, and the kind thing is to let myself sleep for 15 hours or watch Netflix. It's really not kind to let myself do that, and it only makes me feel much worse, both physically and mentally. But it's way too easy to fall into that trap and make it a habit. But on the same token, constantly valuing productivity over rest is the other nasty end of that spectrum. I burn myself out being overly productive and then have no time for creative pursuits or fun things or resting. And then I inevitably crash and end up right back in the pit of depression where I started. It's simply not sustainable. Finally, my therapist came up with a narrower concept to follow, and this is the key. Is what you're doing right now the restorative thing? I'm going to repeat that. Is what you're doing right now the restorative thing? Somehow, this was the key for me. Every day, I ask myself if I'm doing something restorative. And if I'm not, I go do something that is. Most of the time, it's something productive or creative. And when it's not, I'm doing something fun or restful. There are times when lying in bed watching Netflix is the restorative thing, but usually I find the answer is somewhere else, and I'm much happier and more functional for it. No notes, you guys. No freaking notes on that one. That one, I'm going to take this after this podcast episode and run with it. Like, I needed those words. Hope you did too. Can I also just add in here a very quick and very, very potent shout out to therapists who sometimes just say things in a way that we just really needed to hear it in that moment. I love this one because that's exactly what it points to. It's like they kind of already knew to do this, but the way that the therapist was able to reword it made it click for them, which is such a profound and amazing moment. I had one of these when I was in therapy years ago, and I remember I actually probably wrote a blog post about this one. I'm pretty sure I did, but I remember it was just a very stressful time. I was being very self-critical, very harsh, very like, I'm not doing enough, kind of like what this person was talking about too, like not being productive enough. It's a whole huge balance that I could just not get a very good handle on. And I remember I was sitting in the waiting room for my therapist. Like, it felt like my head was just like buzzing. Like, I was just so stressed out. And then so I go in there, I talk to her about what's on my mind. I tell her how much pressure I've put myself under, although I wasn't really phrasing it that way. I was just like, well, I need to do this and I have to do this. And if I don't do this, then I'm a piece of shit. And like, I don't feel good at my job and I don't feel like I'm taking care of myself. And there's all these things that I need to do and my house needs to stay clean and da, 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 da. Very much where my brain goes a lot of the time. And she was just like, well, wait, hold on. Would you talk to your best friend that way? Like if you knew that this was the current situation for your best friend, would you tell them that they're bad at their job? Would you tell them that their house is a mess? Would you tell them that they're not taking good enough care of themselves? Would you say the things that you're saying to yourself to your best friend who was in a similar position as you? And for me, that was when that clicked. I was like, oh, shit. Oh. And while it's still a hard lesson to remind myself of, I do think it's one that I am more able to come back to now when I really get into that mode and I'm like really, really hard on myself, constantly thinking about all the things that I'm not prioritizing enough or not giving enough effort in. And then I'm just like, well, wait, hold on. Would I say that to my best friend? No, the fuck I would not. So there you go. Thanks, therapists. We love you. The last silly little one that I will bring from this thread of Reddit people, internet strangers, is one word and one word only. And I'm just putting it in here purely because it's hilarious. Bidet. It's a bidet. And somebody underneath this also said, I'm not looking directly at it, but they said something like, the worst part of having a bidet is how disgusting you feel when you use a toilet that doesn't have one. And I just thought that was hilarious because I'm in the same boat. I got a bidet. My partner got it for us a few years ago, and now I like cannot go without one. I won't use our toilet downstairs because it doesn't have a bidet, and it's a very real, very, very real concern. All right, this has been fun, but I'm starting to run a little bit low on the good ones that we can have some conversation around. So I'm going to give my own. And in lieu of the standard "we're not really strangers" card game question, I am going to ask this question, the same one that we've been discussing in this episode, to you. So one more time, what improved your quality of life so much you wish you had done it sooner? And honestly, mine is having, this is the simple answer and I'll go in depth, but mine is having a relatively consistent workout routine. In detail, I'll give you the little backstory, but when I was in high school, I did not have this. I was never a person that played sports. I didn't really prioritize working out or getting exercise. I really was not a very active kid. But as I was getting older, and obviously a little bit of peer pressure and just societal, expectations brought their way into this, but I became very self-conscious about my body. I became very like, oh, I need to lose weight. I need to watch what I'm eating. I need to exercise. And I had really never done that before. So it started off from a really rocky place, and it started off with a lot of not so great expectations and not so great messaging around it. Like I was doing it for the wrong reasons, purely just to like quote unquote look better. But I will never ever regret starting to do Pilates and exercise regularly in high school because it did make me feel a lot better, just mentally, honestly. And I really didn't think about it that way at the time. I was more concerned with the physical and the sort of image that it would give me, or that I was hoping it would give me. But once I got into college, I really started to have a consistent morning workout routine. And it's been on and off for several years, pretty much a decade at this point. But my favorite routine to this day was about a year and a half ago when my partner and I got a gym membership at the local community center, which is very affordable, super easy to go to. And we would wake up early in the morning, bike there because it's pretty close by. And it was just the best way to start a morning. Like, I felt so good. I immediately woke up, got outside, was like greeted by the day. I'm like waking up slowly, taking a little bike ride. I do my workout, nothing crazy intense, but still doing a workout. And then go home, eat breakfast, and then go to work. And it was just amazing because it's like by the time I get through my work day and then I come home, I don't have to do anything else. Like, that was always something that I would hold over my head, is that if I work out in the morning, it takes away having to do it later in the day. So I get to enjoy my evenings. And I'm pretty sure I talked about this on an episode about a year ago, but as we are getting back into the winter season, I find this even more important because I think it's really important in the winter to get as much daylight as we possibly can. And if you are somebody who works a 9 to 5, you would probably know, I guess depending on where you live, that obviously you're not getting a lot of sunlight during the day in the winter. For me, if I wake up at my normal time without a workout and I rush and have a quick breakfast of cereal and then go to school, it's dark by the time I come home. So I really have not spent any time outside. I haven't really seen the sun all that much except for like in the windows in my classroom. And it just doesn't feel as good. But if I wake up earlier, I'm waking up with the sun. I get a little bit more sunshine in my day. And then by the time I get home, it's kind of earned in a way that I can relax. And it's dark out. So it's like I don't feel the need to like continue to stay active. I can really just take a load off. That was very long-winded, but that is my absolute favorite routine. And that is the one that improved my quality of life tenfold. I felt good physically. I was more awake at work. I had gotten some outdoor time. I was moving my body. It helped me drink more water throughout the day. Like literally, truly, almost every facet of my life improved. No, I won't even say almost. Every facet of my life improved when I was consistent with that. So my goal, especially after this conversation with you all today, is to bring that back. So what about you? What has improved your quality of life so much that you wish you did it sooner? Ask, journal, let me know. As per usual, my DMs on Instagram are open. I would love to have this conversation with you. And I absolutely loved doing this new kind of episode with you for today. So yay for new things. Thank you for being here. And I hope that some of this was helpful. I hope that you can take something away from this and maybe practice it in your own life. And thank you to the internet for once being a positive point of conversation on this podcast. Thanks, Reddit. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and go, but just want to let you guys know episode 50, which is coming out 2 weeks from today, has such an incredible set of guests. And yes, that is a plural on guests. I'm so freaking excited. Cannot wait to share it with you. I just recorded it the other day and it feels like the most perfect send-off for Led to Gold for now. So hope you tune in. Thanks for being here today. I love you so, so much and we will talk soon. Bye.